Croydon Aerodrome was created in 1920 on the site of two former World War I airfields. An Act of Parliament in 1925 paved the way for the creation of Britain's first dedicated, all-in-one airport terminal, which was opened in 1928. A striking feature was the control tower, which was the largest and tallest in the world at the time, and provided air traffic control and wireless communications. The airport hotel was also the first of its kind in the world. Several airlines used the airport, and the principal British airline was Imperial Airways. It flew continental routes and further afield to the far-flung reaches of the Empire, such as Australia and South Africa. It flew aircraft such as the Armstrong-Whitworth AW15, the Handley-Page HP-42, the largest biplane ever built, and the Armstrong-Whitworth AW27. The airport also played host to some of the famous aviators of the day. In 1927, after his flight from New York to Paris, Charles Lindbergh flew into Croydon to a crowd of over 100,000 people. On the 5th of May 1930, Amy Johnson left Croydon in her Gypsy Moth, Jason, to a small crowd of about half a dozen people en route to Australia. However, as news of her flight spread, by the time she reached Darwin, Australia on the 24th of May, she was a national heroine. She set the world record for a woman flying to Australia, and on her return to Croydon on the 8th of August, she was met with an ecstatic reception, and 1 million people lined the route from Croydon to Grosvenor House Hotel in London. The airlines of other countries also regularly used Croydon. More infamously, the German airline Lufthansa also used Croydon, its aircraft displaying the Nazi swastika symbol. In March 1936, von Ribbentrop flew into Croydon, and later the same year he became German ambassador to Britain. In 1937, Hitler's head of the Luftwaffe, Herman Goring, flew into Croydon with the intention of attending the coronation of George VI, despite not having been invited. Ribbentrop, realising the hatred that the British people felt for Goring, promptly sent him back to Germany after only 10 hours. Perhaps the last German VIP to visit was Gertrude Schotz-Klink, leader of the National Socialist Women's League. She arrived in March 1939 for a 3-day visit in one of the most elegant German aircraft, the Focke-Wulf Condor. With the onset of World War II, Croydon again became an RAF station, and fighter squadrons based there were heavily involved in the Battle of Britain. The airfield was bombed twice during the battle. In 1943, Croydon was taken over by RAF Transport Command, flying thousands of people in and out of Europe. That year saw the greatest number of users in a year, namely over 230,000. Following the war, Croydon was not suitable for newer passenger aircraft, as the surrounding area had been heavily built up. However, German aircraft made a return in the immediate post-war years, as captioned Junkers Ju-52 aircraft were used by the British Airways Limited for a short period. Services gradually declined with the last commercial flight, a de Havilland Heron of Malton Air Services, leaving on the 30th of September 1959. The terminal building today has been converted into offices, but the public can still visit the Control Tower and Museum, which is now in the care of the Historic Croydon Airport Trust and is open once a month. One noticeable feature is the de Havilland Heron outside the building, which bears the registration number of the final flight out of Croydon: Gulf Alpha Oscar X-Ray Lima. All that is left of the apron and runways is a car park and factory units. The controls tower still stands, and on either side one can see the extra floors that were added for office space. The airport hotel still stands to the right of the terminal building. On entering the terminal there is a spacious reception room with a domed glass ceiling. To one side there is a mural depicting the aircraft and people who used the airfield. At the rear of the building one climbs the stairs to the control tower and micro museum. Within the control tower there is a reconstruction of the radio room and displays of airfield memorabilia, including that relating to Amy Johnson. ' There is a small plaque commemorating those who flew there. In the museum there are several exhibits relating to the history of the airport, including the original aircraft wicker chairs and luggage. One of the most poignant exhibits is the flight bag recovered from the Thames estuary when in 1941 an Oxford Airspeed being flown by Amy Johnson mysteriously crashed. Her body was never recovered. Amy Johnson was once described as the Queen of the Air. This title could also be used to describe what was once Britain's premier airport. Croydon, Queen of the Air.